Thank you everyone, and thank you Jordan, thank you Susan and Amy for a powerful presentation, and thank you everyone for being here. I'm sure I've visited everyone's mailbox here at least once. I'm going to keep it short because I know we all are tired. So I'm Tanya Tripathi, I'm the research coordinator for the KAT6 Foundation. I first want to acknowledge the KAT6 Foundation and MCRI for this wonderful opportunity to be here. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a physiotherapist by profession. I was trained in India, and after receiving my training over there, I worked in a community rehab setup where I worked with adults and children who have stroke or had an amputation. And that's when I realized that I want to work with children who have needs, because it's challenging to treat them. We have to be innovative and we need to have fun in our therapy. So I moved to the US to get my PhD in rehab and movement science, and I did it from VCU in Richmond, and I did 2 years of postdoctoral training at Ohio State. And after that I got married, so I moved to Melbourne, Australia, and over there I'm working as a research officer at University of Melbourne and Murdoch Children Research Institute. I'm fortunate to work with Professor David Amor. He's a pioneer in genetics and genomics, and through him I met Emil, Natasha, Meg Salisbury, and Angie, and they opened up the world of rare disease for me. And it's been 2 years since I've been working with the KAT6 Foundation, and I have realized the importance of building strong relationship with stakeholders. And every day I do think through that families and advocacy groups needs to be at the forefront when it comes to driving research. And we need to make, as a researchers, we need to make conscious efforts to learn from their lived experiences, because it's super important. So next I want to talk about the collaborative network approach. I would recommend families to read this review paper, which was published in Emerging Topics in Life Sciences in 2019. And it's by the Castleman Disease Network Group led by Dr. David Fagenbaum. So the foundation has, if you want to understand as a foundation, what is our research model and what are we doing to accelerate treatment discovery and improve health and development outcomes of your children, this is a good read. Through the collaborative network approach, our goal is we want to identify the high impact research questions, because it's important to ask the right question before even we are looking for the answers. And we also aim to encourage researchers to break down the silos and enable data sharing and free flow of information. Today I was very proud to see that Dr. Anvers was talking to Dr. Serrano, Dr. Serrano was talking to Dr. Perkinas, Dr. Pegarnas was talking to Dr. Harris, and this is what we want to see. We want the researchers to come together, because that's the only way to build a united and coordinated research portfolio. And next, all these efforts are going to help us create a roadmap which can accelerate and help research. So this diagram over here is adapted from the Castleman Disease Network, and I won't go much in detail, but I'll just give you a brief overview of what these steps are. What I want to say that the KAT6 Foundation has invested itself in all these steps. In some steps we have already checked off those steps, in some we are still halfway through, in some we need a little bit push. So for instance, Emil talked about the registry, which is a super important data resource for us. So please sign up for the registry, because that's step 2, which is crowdsourcing information. Next is identifying top researchers, and we do that. We do organize symposium, we do organize these events, and that's what we are doing. We are bringing the researchers together so they can meet and they can brainstorm ideas. And then Karen and Marjorie are going to also talk about fundraising. So what I want to say that this is just like a general model that will give you an understanding of, okay, what is the foundation doing? So last year I started working on a scoping review on KAT6A and KAT6B gene variation because if you look at the literature on KAT6A and KAT6B, it's quite vast. Like before KAT6A was even considered to have any syndromic implication, this gene was under investigation to understand the basic mechanisms, and also it was studied as an oncogene. So the literature is quite vast, and we need to work on like synthesizing this literature, organizing it, so that we can better understand the implication of these variations, and also identify what are the potential targets for future research. So the aim of this review is to publish the evidence that's regarding KAT6A and KAT6B, and this is to develop a comprehensive report. And through this, we want to identify research themes and the potential focus areas for future research. So quickly, I'll walk through the method. So what we did, we looked at 5 databases: Medline, PubMed, Embase, Scopus, and Web of Science, and we ran through these headings in these databases. So our inclusion criteria was like any original studies, like primary research studies, case reports, case series, cohort studies, and case control studies, or any abstracts that were published in conferences 2019 onwards that report KAT6A, KAT6B, or both genes in the context of syndromic developmental disorders or gene ontology. So these studies will go in this review. And after looking at just the title and the abstract, then we did a second level of screening, which was of full text, and that was done by me and my co-author, which is Mia. So a little bit about the data extraction, which is like what are we looking at in these studies that are already published on KAT6A and KAT6B. So just like the general information, where was this study done, where was it, or what was the year of publication, what are the characteristics of the included studies. If it's a human-based studies, then we want to see, okay, what were the number of participants, what were the number of KAT6A variants or KAT6B variants, and where was the location of gene variant. If it's an animal-based model study, you want to see, okay, what was the species that was this study was done on, or type of deletion. And all this information, we are going to then look into, okay, can we identify any research themes? What kind of themes are popping up from this data? So when we looked through all these databases, we found around 15 references. And after like removing duplicates and cleaning it a little bit, there were like 648 research reports that were screened. So we reviewed their title and abstracts. And of these, we found 238 research reports that were selected for full text review. So overall, we have like 110 research reports that we have included in this scoping review. And we are going to, this is still work in progress. So what we're going to do is extract all the data from these research reports and see, okay, what research themes are popping up. So again, as I said, it's still work in progress. It's not a complete picture, but like the 4 primary themes that showed up is there are studies that are done on the clinical, genetic, and characterization of KAT6A and KAT6B disorders. So these are the studies that are talking about like what is the phenotype spectrum. And there are also studies that are animal models. So there's like generation of animal models and testing these animal models, like how close we are in terms of using these for treatment discovery. And next is like there are studies that fall under the theme of molecular mechanisms, where they are looking at gene regulation, gene expression, and towards the end there is a theme of diagnosis and therapeutic implications. But these themes are just like general themes, and once we look at the data closely, then we'll be able to get a better understanding of sub-themes and what information falls under each of these themes. So with this, we'll be able to report if there are any gaps in the literature, and we'll also be able to highlight areas where further research is needed. And also we'll be able to add, okay, what are the specific research questions or hypotheses that we should be focusing on. All right, thank you so much for your time. And again, I want to thank KAT6 Foundation and MCRI. Thanks a lot.